Alright, our southern colonies consist of Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. These are characterized by large plantations, slave labor brought over from Africa, and cash crops of rice, indigo, and tobacco. The South is Plantationville, if you will. There's long, hot summers, heavy rainfall. The cash crops, as said before, tobacco, indigo, and rice. And I thought it was very interesting that barrels of goods were sent downriver to the coast because roads were not well used at this time. Maryland, also known as Maryland in the class, is a refuge for Catholics. Maryland, Mother Mary, was designed to give a place for Catholics to come that they could have religious tolerance. Lord Baltimore Sr. Waited for a charter almost his whole life, and finally his son was given it to him after he passed away. Given land, they had a good setup plan. They allowed extra acres for every child and servant in a group were given to people that came over for land. This is an awesome example of a pull factor, as we talked about in the last lecture, of reasons to come to the New World, extra land. There's excellent waterways for easy trade, great source of fish for oysters and crabs. The religious toleration that was given to the Catholics also attracted the Protestants, and they soon outnumbered the Catholics in coming to Maryland. This brought on, so that they could live peacefully and coincide, the Toleration Act of 1649, which guaranteed religious tolerance for all Christians. This is one of Maryland's biggest legacies, the beginning of religious freedom or religious tolerance in America. Next up is Virginia. This is kind of a review from our Jamestown lecture, which you hopefully remember. The main reason it was founded initially was for gold in Jamestown. That's what they were looking for. The people that had an excess on it was the Pohan Indians, more specifically Pocahontas, who saved them from their starving time by bringing over food. The colony in Virginia grew to be based on the cash crop of tobacco, which was brought over by John Rolfe and saved the colony from destruction. They were also our first representative assembly in America, the Virginia House of Burgesses. This was established in 1619, and in order to be a part of the Virginia House of Burgesses, you had to have 5 things. You had to be an adult, male, white, land-owning church member in order to participate. North and South Carolina. These are together on the slideshow, but I'll go through them slowly. Both Carolinas had slow growth. It was humid and swampy, and large amounts of land were offered to noblemen rather than to bringing colonists over like Pennsylvania or in offering extra land for children or servants. Mostly, they just tried to give land to noblemen. North Carolina was settled a lot by an outspread of Virginians. They grew tobacco, and tobacco takes up a lot of land and labor, and that drew people down for more land to North Carolina because it had a similar humid, swampy type of climate. North Carolina is one of the most democratic colonies. They mostly take care of themselves, mind their own neighbors type deal, but they became a safety port for pirates, which is super interesting. There's a cove there where they would repair their ships with the tar and the wood that was present around the area in North Carolina, and the governor didn't really do anything about this. South Carolina pulled people from the West Indies. These people brought indigo and rice, and they used slaves to grow rice and tend cattle. Indigo and rice became the cash crops of the area, but they also had thick pine forests, which helped supply the English Navy with lumber and tar and supplies. So here is a picture of the indigo that they grew and the dye that they changed it into for clothes. This was super popular in England, and they were able to trade for that. The last colony we're talking about today is Georgia, the colony for the poor. It was founded by James Oglethorpe in 1732, and it was designed to be a refuge for debtors. In England, when you owed someone money, you were jailed, and when you were jailed, you could no longer make money, so then you couldn't get out of debt. And it was just kind of an empty system that James Oglethorpe wanted to fix. So his idea is to bring all the people who were jailed for being in debt to Georgia. When he asked the English government for this permission to get this charter, they thought of a better reason. They wanted to make Georgia a military outpost. So, south, you have the French and the Native Americans around Louisiana trying to um, attack or get in to take back their land, and Georgia offered as a buffer zone to stop or prevent this. When the debtors heard about this, they weren't super excited that they had to risk their lives in order to protect the other colonies. In addition to that, Oglethorpe had very strict rules. Finally, in 1752, he made it a royal colony. The picture of the bulldog is the Georgia Bulldogs as a buffer zone, a protector, or a guard for the other colonies. In review, Maryland is a colony, refuge for Catholics, but inhabited by more Protestants, offered religious freedom. North Carolina, refuge for pirates, a great place to get timber to build their boats. Tar was the byproduct of tobacco, and naval stores were a main export, also had religious freedom. South Carolina, cotton and rice and indigo dominated this region. Large plantations for crops and much needed labor equated to the need for slavery, aristocracy of the New World, and the awesome blossoming town of Charlestown. Georgia, refuge for debtors. James Oglethorpe was the proprietor, also acted as a military buffer against the Spanish and Native Americans in Florida and the French to the west. Here's a map. Be sure to review that and their regional locations. Thank you very much.